says we've got everything uploaded on my end, and let's check the live. Still not live. Oh, there we go.
And
It is
I
live now.
think that's it.
You got
There
it.
we go.
Whew. We're doing
Now,
it
what
live,
were you
folks.
saying about t-shirts?
Yeah, so my 2 minute rant about t-shirts involved basically having two conference t-shirts if it's 2 days. That's what it boils down to. Is like I sweat a
Yeah,
lot when I talk to new people. Unfortunately.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is a bad idea to send me to a conference with one t-shirt for
Right.
multiple days.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
I know
I'm
the same
gonna
boat.
stink.
But I feel like we are kind of not really the target market, but maybe we're. I feel like this desire is not something that is unique to us too. Is all I'm trying to say.
No,
It's
no.
quite common.
Yeah,
Attendees, presenters, it doesn't seem to matter. I feel like conferences, especially like because it was at Javits, which is like a lot of walking. I
hmm,
mean, you can stand on those escalators and wait for it to go up, but that's a long escalator. I'm definitely walking
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and the
And it's even
ticket.
worse at
Yeah,
reInvent,
right,
where there's multiple. I mean, Datadog's always had multiple booths at
right.
multiple venues, and some of those require. I mean, if you're gonna walk, it's a 40-minute walk.
Right. So, is Segway the answer? I may fall on the sword here this year for reInvent. I'll probably do like a game day or something like that. I've offered to help. If someone wants my help, I will give it. But it feels like like a Segway or a Razor scooter or something's got to be better than
Mm-hmm.
walking around. Is there what is the next level play here?
Yeah, I mean, do they have? Does Vegas have all the like what is it, Lime bikes or Lime
It
scooters
has
all
to,
over
right?
the streets?
Yeah, it's got to. I haven't been to Vegas in a
Yeah,
bit,
I don't
but
know.
yeah, since COVID, I guess I haven't gone.
Um,
But yeah, agreed. It's got
is
to have something.
is reInvent still a all hands kind of event?
It's definitely like
I guess Datadog is now a lot bigger. But I
yeah, I
mean,
wouldn't say all hands, but like I think when you're thinking about if we think about partner relationships and things like that, if you're a
right,
software vendor, it feels like to me I don't think anyone would argue that it's the most popular cloud, and as a result, it means that more people are going. So it's definitely kind of the forefront of the cloud conferences, for better or for worse,
right,
just because of the amount of people who are going to be
sure,
there, straight up. And then the next is, I guess, for us, Google Cloud Next has actually been a pretty good one in the most recent
hmm,
years, and then Build and what's the other one? Ignite, I think, are maybe
mm-hmm,
less attended by Datadog right now, and maybe that's something that we're going to fix in the future. But that's kind of where we are currently. Is AWS is sort of that primo, but I don't know, VendorCon partner event sort of thing that we
right.
attend. Yeah, does that
Like
does that track? Because I know it used to be like that too, but was it all
yeah,
hands before?
I mean, and it was also like it was the thing that everyone at the company attended.
Right.
I mean, now Datadog is so much bigger. You don't need to. I mean, even having that many people is a burden. I think the last reInvent I went to, um, I feel like Datadog had maybe 200 employees there.
I mean, that's a sizable. That's a that's a lot of employees.
That was because I know that several of the dinners that were for big groups, they had to split it off into two groups of 100 each
That is incredible,
because none of the restaurants can,
right?
fit
That's a lot of
people.
people. Yeah, that's closing down the whole
Um,
restaurant.
yeah,
Wow, that's really cool. But yeah, I feel like AWS reInvent is still that conference. But the
right.
question would be, is there some? Sorry, I'm bearing the lead here a little bit. But the question is, like, if cloud was a big thing that had its heyday back in the day, again, I'm always looking for patterns here. What is the next AI conference? And I say this because during Dash there was the AI Engineer World's Fair seemed to happen at the same time. Did that come across your radar at all?
No.
No, and I'd never heard of it either, but based on the sessions and the talk and the people who were there, it was it was sponsored by Microsoft and a company called Small SMOL. Have you heard of them before?
No.
No. Okay, yeah, exactly. So the question I've got, and maybe AI World's Fair is not the one, but is there a conference out there that would pull in, let's say, 1,000 engineers working on this kind of stuff? What would that conference be, if not like an AWS reInvent or at GCP or GCN, I guess, Google
I don't
Cloud
know if there
Next.
is
Right,
any. It's
right,
they are like the offshoots from other big events. You know, there'll be a big event,
right,
and then there'll be the AI day or whatever.
right.
Because
Like the KubeCon
there's no
AI Day, right?
one
Yeah.
there's no one leader to run it.
Now, Matt, I don't know how good you are at event planning, but it
No,
just
I don't
it
want it.
seems to me that there's got to be like a monotorama for the people who are really getting their hands dirty. And I say this like again out of a place of love. I love monotorama. Only went once, but what is that for AI or Gen
Yeah.
AI to put a fine point on it? And do we need it, or is it going to become VendorCon? Like that's the
And
thing.
well, I don't know. I mean, I there's so many different levels
Hmm.
of knowledge of AI,
Absolutely.
and you know, if you tried to, I mean, Monotorama. One of the great things about Monotorama is it's single track,
Right.
and you're in that one room, or you were in that one room, and what was it, the Armory in Portland,
Hmm.
and it was,
Still there, I think.
yeah, it was great. But because I mean, you don't want to have, you know, half the audience will probably just want to know about doing things with ChatGPT, and another half will, I mean, maybe Claude or ChatGPT, they're kind of interchangeable. But then there's others that will just say, no, it's got to be
Right.
local all the way, or it has to be, you know, only, you know, ChatGPT, but on my Azure, or you know, all, the AWS's
Bedrock.
thing for it, Bedrock. Yeah,
Mm.
you know, there's, and I don't think a talk about any one of those different solutions would be interesting to somebody who is focused on a different platform. There's no, I mean, like I think a lot of the stuff at reInvent, you know, even if you just care about Google Cloud, there's some overlap. And you know, I did a serverless talk, AWS Lambda talk at whatever Google Cloud's event was.
Google Cloud Next, maybe?
Um,
No, different one.
it was one of the more of the regional shows.
Oh, gotcha. Like a
So the
summit
one
kind of
in
thing.
Kansas City,
Gotcha.
I did. And but I don't see that yet in. And then there's more the researcher side, the hard,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
in
this is the
depth
hard
kind of
science
stuff.
stuff. Yeah, this isn't. That's
Yeah.
definitely not mass appeal. So the
No.
question, I guess, to me is like, what is the DevOps days, or what is the Monodrama? What is like the community level? What's the
Yeah.
researcher level? There's a bunch missing, right? Because this all it's nascent, it's emerging,
Yeah.
it's happened kind of overnight, even though it's taken a couple years. The question is like, where does that land? For what I guess what I'm looking for, just to be honest, is like if there's an ML operations conference, what does the LLM operations conference look like? So what's the LLM ops days kind of thing, where it's community driven, people can run their own stuff. It's that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at now, and it feels like too much too soon. Like, are we even ready for this? Maybe not.
Yeah. That, I mean, there's too many of these conferences that are led by groups that'll say they're industry groups, but they're really just
Right.
ways to do a cash grab on, you know, suckers gonna buy a ticket. You know,
Right.
I
I
think
mean,
of
listen, I'll put CNCF in that category, and again,
absolutely
I love them, but also I think running an event is a profit generating place,
right,
and in the open
absolutely,
source community, for sure, we have to shepherd people and put them in there. So I'd say that there's maybe a little bit of like planning in there, and then there used to be kind of the O'Reilly conference stuff,
yeah,
which is like a little bit of research plus some tech stuff
yeah,
in a conference, and that's kind of, I guess that's a void for me right now.
right,
Is why I'm bringing it up, and I don't know if Manning can create something, but something of that ilk that's at that level. It
yeah,
feels like there's a gap. And then there's the Apache kind of stuff as well that would have like a conference. And then there's the vendor cons. And again, like I work for a
yeah,
company that's a vendor that runs a conference that tries to be
right,
somewhat agnostic, but honestly, it's mostly about the product.
hmm,
Where does this fit? Because we had some announcements that were cool, but also for that crowd, maybe the fact that we had something is important. But in terms of who's going to be
right,
using something like a an LLM observability product, like that might be a niche within a niche, basically, for the audience.
right,
Unfortunately, it's bad. I feel like there's no one in the comments here, so I don't know if we messed something up
yeah.
on this stream this week. But whatever, we've got him in. I gave it a thumbs up, so we'll see if that helps. move
Yeah,
things
six
along.
six viewers.
Okay, well, we get some people. That's good. But I guess what I'm getting at, and we don't have to find an answer for this either on this podcast, is like what that looks like or what that event might want to be, like what the goal might be, what the intent might be, what the outcome would
Right.
be of this conference. And what I'm missing specifically is that community driven open space content, which is like my soapbox. I want to get into a room with you
Mm-hmm.
and just talk about difficulties I've had running stuff locally, the things I can run in the cloud, and figure out what you're doing
Right.
without necessarily saying like this is a vendor pitch, that kind of thing. But like what's actually working when
Right.
the rubber meets the road is always been important to me in these kind of emerging techs. Like when Kubernetes was becoming popular, when Docker was becoming popular, those conversations for me were pivotal within the industry to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Just
There
saying,
there
there's an
was
open space here for you, Matt. If you want to.
there was an event that I went to that
Mhm.
was run by who was it? Heavy Bit.
Okay, right.
Um, and they did kind of a conference that was kind of unconferencey, I think sort of invite only, and um,
Right. But Heavy Bit's one of
that
those
was
things. They're kind of like Hacker News in that they help a bunch of early stage startups, right?
right.
Is my
I mean,
understanding.
they're a
Okay.
venture capital firm.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because they help people start podcasts and stuff like that. That
yeah,
I'll certainly listen to. Gotcha. Yeah, so maybe that is like the Hacker News kind of conference of LLM, we'll
right.
say. And then what is 'cause that's not even bad, honestly. If that's what we're because maybe that is the case, is that the people interested in this are startups, and as a result, the startups are going to startup focus events.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
so maybe it's just too early. Maybe that's it. I'm asking
yeah,
for something too early.
yeah. I mean, like I'm thinking back to the original days of reInvent. I mean, the reInvent.
Right?
I don't think reInvent happened until AWS had been around for at least 2 or 3 years,
Yeah, if not more. Yeah.
and the first reInvent was like 30 people.
Right. My understanding it was tiny. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's just
um,
a gaggle of people who happen to be interested in this cloud thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, very interesting. All designing to run on USD Swan because they're all in the same room.
yeah,
This forever architecture. Yes.
yeah. And uh, I think like Olama had meetup. You know, the first meetup that we had was at one of the VCs that we got money from. Can't remember if it was Benchmark or one of the others. Um, and that was like a really large crowd. And I
Right.
think they did another meetup in Paris at the time of KubeCon, at the same location that Hugging Face did a meetup.
Okay.
It's some really big, cool hall.
Right.
Um,
But that,
but
I guess that's
and
the other
and
thing.
that's kind of a meetup that
Right.
is, it's a 4 hour thing, a 4 hour event, and yet you can get hundreds,
Right.
many hundreds of people showing up. Um, so, which would it be possible to expand that to fill a day? I don't know.
And again, I feel like I'm just throwing darts left, right, and center here. But we have a meetup locally. It's run by Chris Krug, somebody who I know from the Rails community way back when. But again, I think that's more concentrated on generative AI applications in art,
Mm,
which honestly I'm sort of interested in, but way more interested in like reading an image and describing it as opposed to generating images. And I get that there's
hmm.
a ton of interest in the generating of the images, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff, but it's just not the wrinkle that I'm into. And I
yeah,
understand why it's popular, but also like that meetup is small and it could become a thing, but it's like a narrow slice of a topic, I guess is the issue for me.
yeah.
Whereas the topic itself is quite interesting and quite vast. Just thinking about the application in generating art
Right.
is again, it might be a fine focus, but in terms of like Vancouver specific, I don't know if that's worth a whole
Yeah.
conference. As a city that can barely support like a DevOps Days Vancouver, I think it was canceled this year. Unfortunately, it just
Hmm.
didn't have enough interest. So yeah, I think maybe we're trying to capitalize, or I'm trying to
Yeah.
capitalize on something too early.
And as somebody who has been an organizer for DevOps Days Seattle
Right.
and DevOps Days Boston, I mean, it's a lot of work putting
Right.
on a conference, and I don't want to do that work ever again.
You've been scarred once, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for Boston, I know the time I became or an organizer was when the previous organizing team, everyone left.
Oh wow.
Everyone dropped out because I mean they were so stressed. I mean that was before one of the things that we had done with DevOps Days Boston was set up a nonprofit so that the nonprofit was on the hook for the bill if
Smart.
anything bad happened.
Right.
Um, Whereas the year before, it was each of the organizers were personally liable for a percentage of
Oh.
the bill for the hotel,
Oh.
and the for the 2 day conference, the bill for just the venue. I mean, venue included food and all of those things and internet. I feel like it came to like $120,000.
Wow.
Um,
So just a
and so
drop
it
in the
was like,
bucket, right?
and
That's
and
kept
yeah,
change.
and and it ended up
That's a
going
lot. Like
fine.
I honestly
But
didn't expect that number. I expected something in the order of like 60 to 70 kind of thing. So maybe
well, I
I
think
I don't know what I'm talking about.
DevOps Days Boston nowadays is at a place called the Circle uh something Rama Circarama something like
Okay.
that. Cyclorama.
I was
No,
about to
that's
say
not.
cyclorama
No, it's
because
not
that's a thing.
Cyclorama.
Okay. It's like
It's
a
something else.
racing.
Some circle thing. It was a building built to show the original version of a painting, the cyclorama. No, I said cyclorama,
You did,
but
you
I
did.
don't know. To show an original painting of the Civil War, and that painting then got moved out of that location and moved to Gettysburg,
Yeah,
where
I happen to know
the
the
battle
painting. It's
was.
a Paul Dominique Philippoto's panoramic description of. Sorry, it cut off
Yes.
there. But yeah, it is a cyclorama. I think you got
Oh,
it.
it is a cyclorama.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's specifically in the BCA, which is Boston Center for the
Yep.
Arts. I'm
Yep.
googling stuff, obviously, in
Yeah.
case the audience thinks I know anything about places
Yeah.
and names. Yeah.
But I mean, so that was a lot cheaper. Plus, we were a nonprofit, so it was even cheaper than that. But they have no Wi-Fi, and so we spent,
Oh,
you know, $40,000 for 2 days of Wi-Fi.
I thought the internet was free, Matt. How does this
Well,
happen?
we had to hire people to come in a couple days before to set up microwave links pointing to the Prudential or whatever the tower is
Like a
called now
point to
in
point.
Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was the cost. I mean, it was thousands of dollars to set up this thing, and we had to pay for it every year because
I'm
the
getting
Cyclorama
I'm
didn't
getting
want to just
what
get internet.
I got wild ideas. Like, what if you're at the you have no Wi-Fi? Either bring your cell phone
Yeah,
or you don't have Wi-Fi,
you're offline. You're offline
which is
for the
kind
day,
of terrible, but also maybe
which
you should
is
just listen to me.
it's just good. Yeah, yeah.
No live tweeting. It's just you must listen. Take notes in a notebook.
Yep, yep.
I So listen. I'm not gonna
The
spoil
whole
the checkout
conference will
here.
be available on videotape after you leave.
Yes, like legitimately on VHS. And if you don't listen, I'm going to take a glass and throw it in
Yep,
the corner. I'm trying to make a
yep.
dark matter joke here. Like you got to write it down in an actual notebook. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, I did end up watching Dark Matter during this trip,
Okay.
and I guess my word in edgewise is just a thank you because honestly, it's fantastic. I was
Yeah.
wrapped enjoyment. I had an extra day in New York on Saturday just because flights ended up being a lot cheaper that day.
Uh-huh.
I did nothing. I had like an extended stay at my hotel. All I watched was this super freaking show that some Matt guy on the internet recommended. It was really good. Like it was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good.
It was great.
You talk about multiple, yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
realities and stuff like that, and I thought, this is just gonna be another one of those. It was great. It actually went just as far as I wanted it in terms of like, yeah, you're gonna really open Pandora's box, and this is gonna be
Yeah.
complicated,
Yeah.
and it did get
Yeah.
complicated, and I was like, yes, this is perfect. We went into hard sci-fi. Anyway, this isn't a glowing review of that show, but I'll say that the writers for the first four episodes was the writer of the book, and then the last five episodes they seem to have a rotating cast of writers.
Mm.
I feel like they may have done the right thing in doing that because some of the romance bits, I feel like maybe the original author didn't do such a good job on, just based on the
Yeah.
first four episodes. I'm not here for like the love triangle kind of stuff, but honestly, it's
Right.
kind of complex. and I feel like the writing for
But that was pretty interesting. I mean,
it,
that
it,
was
it
like,
ended up being interesting
what
because I
would?
think it was well written. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally agree.
yeah.
Totally agree. I was like, I don't want to hear this as some other dude
I
talking about
feel
some
like my
relationship.
partner's different, but I can't. I mean, it's the same
Two
person, so
women talk to each
obviously,
other about something other
yeah.
than the main character just for a bit. Like a lot of times it was about the main character. Was it the Bechdel kind of thing? But yeah,
Yeah,
almost didn't pass the test. But yes, by the end of it, they did. I really thought it was a great show, and it was a good distraction. I think from like
yeah,
a lot of after a conference for me, it's kind of like I'm emotionally exhausted. There's just like a
yeah,
lot physically exhausted. There's just not a lot left in the tank, unfortunately. And
yeah,
that show was perfect. I
yeah.
watched it on the flight on my iPhone, even like it was just
Hmm.
good enough to watch. I will say, it's in the name, but Dark Matter was quite dark in terms of like the exposure. It was very, very dark. It was almost
Yeah.
like -2 the whole time. But otherwise, I thought it was fantastic. So anyway, sorry, it's spoiling the checkouts, but for
Did
me, that was awesome.
the other another one of those shows I recommended was Sugar? Did you ever
And
see any
not
of
yet,
Sugar?
not yet. It's up
Oh,
next. I'm here
that
for
was
Apple TV.
weird.
I rented Dune 2 on Apple TV, which
Oh yeah,
renting
it's
something
disappointing.
digital feels really weird. But when you're in a bind and you realize I haven't downloaded anything for this flight, perfect. Like downloaded in
Yeah,
minutes. The quality was phenomenal. There's a lot of sand in that movie, but like it
yeah.
looked phenomenal on the iPad Pro, and the sound. It's got that weird, I don't know, like positional sound that works
Mm.
really, really well. Actually, I thought it was fantastic. I think
Wow.
the second Dune or Part Two, I guess, way more interesting to me than the first.
Really?
Much better, like way more improved. I would actually even say that the cinematography was worse, but the movie was better. They're just like
Mm.
some awful decisions. Like I don't need to see this much sand for this long. Like really, you couldn't have thought of some other
Yeah.
composition. Anyway, but I thought it was
My
quite good.
my big problem was with one and two
Yep,
was it was exactly the same. I mean, like word for word, exactly the same movie, and scene for scene, exactly the same thing as the movie that came out in what, 1980
1984.
something.
Thank you. This
Come
minority
on.
opinion, like I definitely share this. That for me, I think the one in 1984 was really good. Maybe it was 1986, but like it had was it not the same actor though as
It
the
was
main villain, the guy from
it
Twin
was
Peaks?
Twin Peaks. Yeah,
Yeah, right. He was in both, which
yeah,
I kind of thought was funny. Yeah, it was in fact
yeah.
Bruce
It
McCullough.
was
I
no.
think no,
Is it
it's just Kyle MacLachlan. Sorry.
Kyle McLeod? Yeah,
Yes, yes, I'm terrible with names. But listen. I really like the David Lynch version. I understand that
yeah,
this isn't
yeah,
it's not canon. He took a lot of liberties, and it looks
yeah.
like just on some wild stuff. But yeah, I love the David
I
Lynch
mean,
one.
it's I there were I went back to look at the movie, the David Lynch one. It's like it is like we're everything
Right,
scene for scene exactly the same. There was no okay, there was a you usually I mean putting on a movie there's a lot of creativity that the director and all the whole team has to put together. And half the decisions from whatever the this new one, three-quarters of the decisions needed that need to get made are already made for him because he's just
right,
copying the previous movie. I mean, it's
right.
a copy, and it's not a
Y-
great copy. It
What is
was
that called? Like
I hated
the
both of
adaptation,
movies.
right? Like the liberties that you take between a book and the movie. So
Yeah,
you're saying it's like basically the same adaptation.
it is exactly the same.
Yeah, yeah. You're saying
It
there
is.
were less
There's no
dogs. I
creativity in
think there
this
were
one.
more dogs in the David Lynch
Yeah.
one. He cast some dogs as monsters back when you could use live animals.
I couldn't be more disappointed with the two Dune movies.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. So I thought Villeneuve did a good job directing, but yeah, you're right in terms of the writing. Maybe the first part one I felt was a little bit lazy in the writing department, but I don't think I could do any
yeah,
better. It's hard
yeah,
to if you've seen the Lynch version. For me, it's unforgettable, and that like that to you is the way that the book should look. And then when I read the book again, I'm thinking about the movie that I watched. Unfortunately, I'm not thinking my own thoughts
right,
about how
right.
Dune could look because there's a lot of stuff in the book that aren't there are things that aren't described in very good detail, similar to like a Game of Thrones. It's like, and then a dragon appeared. Like, okay, how big was the dragon? What color was
Right.
it? It's just like a lack of descriptive kind of elements for some of the
Yeah.
fantastical beings. The same can't be said for the books in terms of like saying the things were like grotesque or like dripping or smelling, but like the David Lynch. view of things and the floating people and stuff like that seem to be the same way that they were portrayed in the two
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
movies. Like, it's because David Lynch is brilliant. Let's just honestly, like a favorite director of mine. So I think
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
So, in the lead up to this call,
Yep.
you sent a list of a couple of things
I
that
was
you
trying to
wanted
get
to
your
talk
attention.
about,
Did
and
I get your
one of
attention?
those things. What was your? What do you mean?
Conference T-shirts, right? Yes. So we
Yeah,
talked
the
about
other
those.
thing.
The other things, snacks that keep you alive while traveling, or maybe the last
Uh,
thing.
no, the other thing.
Are you possibly referring to portable bidets?
I'm referring to portable bidets.
First, let's
I
set
don't
the
know what this
stage.
is.
Yeah, let's set the stage for like what this looks like, and then I'll talk about maybe the next level kind of thing. So, when you were younger and you went camping and you wanted to bring a bunch of condiments, did you happen to have like the reusable like ketchup squirter thing that you like filled the ketchup thing with, and then you'd use? Have you ever seen one of these like off-brand ketchup d- devices that like you unscrew the top, you put the ketchup in, and then you squirt it on your hot
Yeah.
dog kind of
Okay.
thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
portable bidet is imagine just that. Like this is at the very basis of what you're talking about. It's just this thing that holds water that squirts. But now listen. I realize we haven't like gone into this territory in this podcast. I will put it down that like this is an environmental concern. We should care about our bodily functions, but we'll leave that there for now. Like being clean in the bathroom is very important. I should also say, having just spent some time in Japan last year and going back again this year, it reminded me that bidet is quite handy thing. But where I wanted to go with this topic, from the ketchup bottle, which is honestly kind of gross to think about, what if you could take that and make it into like a Japanese high tech device? And this, my friend, is where I landed.
Hmm.
So, Toto, the makers of the washlet, who I think
Mm-hmm.
everyone can agree is like the best
We
bidet.
we have one.
There you go.
It's amazing.
They make an electronic version of the portable bidet that has the same wand that folds out the same way the washlet does, and has a little button that'll actually kind of make it into a portable washlet as opposed to what honestly doesn't sound that great in terms of the catch-up thing. But like it's a whole device that they sell for about 100 Canadian dollars, I think, and maybe I would say
Hmm.
70 US dollars based on current exchange rate. But it's essentially a motorized water bottle that does all the stuff for you and can be like cleaned and taken with you on vacation and recharged and all this other stuff.
Hmm.
But yes, this is where we are. It's 2024. There is a market for
It
portable bidets now for hotels that don't have the washlet experience.
right now
I can't believe I got through all of that without laughing, but here we are.
the magic of the fixed device is
Right?
that it is somehow able to find the exact. I mean, is it because I'm sitting in the same spot every time?
No. Oh, okay, so
Is it actually
my understanding is
finding?
some of them are laser guided. Which I didn't know because I had the exact same question as you. Specifically, having just gone to Japan, like used some really new ones, and like I think it was the Asakusa community place or something. I was like, wait a second, something's changed because like there was in the past there was some minor adjustments, so like get things just lined up. You don't need to do that these days. And you walk up to them, the toilet opens. When you walk away, it closes
Ours
because
does.
you weren't supposed to touch it during COVID because it's
Yeah,
dirty. You don't want to be touching the lid and all that
yeah,
stuff, and it's just remained as like a piece of tech that's now in the washlet. But my
yeah,
understanding, Matt, is yes, it's laser guided,
yeah.
which is amazing to me.
That and so I mean, is this portable one also?
It is not, but you'd be surprised how quickly you can find home.
I'm yeah. I mean, that's
And like
kind of
I was
magic.
half joking here, but like I really do think that the amount of toilet paper that we use, we talk about like low flow toilets in the U.S. and things like that. Like this actually is an environmental concern. It's something we do multiple times a day across a lot of people across the world. So I feel like this is actually something where tech could help. And I hate to say it, but like honestly, if we're going to be using like collision detection systems and systems on chips that can like find distance and stuff like that, this is a pretty good problem to apply it to on mass instead of like
Yeah.
yeah. Yes. So
So
this is where we are.
in in our house, when the power goes, when we lose power, we have
Right.
a generator that comes on that's just outside,
Hmm.
and and that's hooked up to a I don't know 500 or 1,000 gallon propane tank outside. Um, uh, but that turns on, keeps a lot of things going, like keeps the fridge going, keeps
Right.
the all sorts of other things, all the lights in the house, keeps them going. And in the garage, we have two separate fuse box panels. So
Right.
I don't know what 400 amps. I don't know whatever the thing is.
Nice.
Um, and but the bidet is on the other panel that is not enabled by the generator. And so
Oh
when the
yeah.
generator goes on, and has been on for a while, uh, you lose. I mean, you lose the ability to use that,
How do you
and
live
so
with
it
it?
feels so strange walking up to it. It's like,
It doesn't
what?
open. Yeah.
It doesn't open by itself, and then you sit down, and the seat's cold. I
Oh,
mean,
unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like your car probably has reversing what do you call it? Like camera, that kind of thing,
oh
or
yeah,
assisted
yeah.
parking. I find when I rent a car that I like it's not that I
Hmm.
can't parallel park, but that skill to me
Yeah,
is a little bit different
yeah,
now because I'm watching a screen while I do it. That's kind of get a
yeah.
fake overhead view, so it's easy for me to understand how to navigate. And it's like I've lost that skill. Now, losing the skill to go to the washroom is not great. It's like
Well,
one of these things is important. The other one is
the best thing for getting relearning parallel parking
right.
is, when I moved back to the U.S.,
Hmm.
I had to when I moved to well, every time I gotten a new license, in all of the different states, they just say, okay, um, uh, we'll take your existing license, just do the written test, and you're good to go. No need to do a driving test. And
Right.
I did the driving test originally when I was 15 in
Of
high
course.
school,
Yep.
and that's the only time I did a driving test. When I moved to the Netherlands, because of the tax ruling I was under, they just took my U.S. license and gave me a Dutch license without even taking a test, which was a mistake because the rules are a little different.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And so I was like a burden. I was
There's like
a
a lot of
bad person to have on
cyclists,
the
is
road.
my understanding, when you're driving in
Yeah,
Netherlands. Yeah.
exactly. And but when I moved back to the States, they knew that I had a license in a different country somehow.
Right.
I'd never understood that. But I couldn't just change over my Dutch license to a US license. And because my last license was Dutch and not any US state, I needed to start over as if I had never driven before in my life. And so I had to take a driving test.
This sounds dangerous. Like
And
I'm not sure if I could
and
pass.
so
Yeah.
I like I mean I know how to drive, but
Right.
and
Yeah.
so I found some place just north of Boston that did a driving school basically in a day for people like me, and it was kind of funny because I had to take the train there, and I get off the train, and this the previous person who's learning to drive it picks me up with the instructor in the side, in the passenger side, and this kid is 15, like I was when I
Right.
originally
Yep.
learned.
Yep.
I was like, I'm being chauffeured by this 15-year old, and it was a little weird. And but then I did the drive around. Okay, here's the things they're going to test you on. Just do this, and then parallel parking. It was like do parallel parking the way that a student is going to learn how to parallel park, and it was amazing. And ever since then,
Huh.
I don't even think about it. I can parallel park perfectly first time in, no matter what car I'm in. I don't need any
Ooh.
backup camera at all. It's great.
Now, now there's a system. So, like, what I
There
will
is.
explain to you my rubric or my maximum or the workflow that I use. So, I park my car directly next to the car that's in front of me, and then so that the wheel hubs are lined up. Essentially, I will back up until the front wheel matches their back wheel, and then I'll cut in as much as I can. And then once my bumper clears their bumper, I will cut the other way. That is like
I
this is
I
all I do.
think I think you pull up to the car in front
Yep.
or car on the side, and then once you've got the in the like in your rear in the passenger side window on the back seat, looking through their window, you're looking to be lined up with the back of the other car.
Right.
and then you do the hard turn to the
Yep.
right to back in, and as soon as you see the I think the trunk outside your window,
Gotcha.
then you straighten up,
Okay, I can try that.
and then you
This is one of those things.
it
Like
was something like that.
I've taught people how to do this, but I feel like I'm the worst teacher because my method is like it assumes that the wheelbases are similar in length, I guess, and when
Yeah.
they're not, people can get confused. So I
Hmm.
guess there's a bit of that. But yeah, it is. It's a little bit difficult to explain to people when you're
Yeah.
supposed to cut. I think the second time, but yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe in order to learn this
Yeah.
over again, I need to teach somebody instead of
Yeah.
losing my license after going to a different country. What I found
Yeah.
interesting in your story there is that you said they took your U.S. license and replaced it with another
Yes.
license. Yeah, that's a whole thing right there.
Yeah. I mean, that was amazing. That was amazing.
Okay, but
Um,
you didn't have a U.S. license at that point, so you could not return home and drive.
well, I could drive for a certain amount of time.
Okay, gotcha. On like an international or whatever for a couple weeks. Okay.
International license is bogus.
Okay,
I mean,
fair enough.
that's a scam by
It does sound like
various.
a
I mean,
scam.
there's
Yeah.
no real. There's nothing that's real about that. Uh, yeah.
Interesting.
Um, but I ended up driving on that Dutch license for about a year before I finally,
In the U.S. before you finally went through your
yeah,
course and everything. Okay,
yeah.
that's not too bad.
And I had to do that because Tony and I were getting married, and there were all sorts of activities that needed to get done, and she couldn't be my chauffeur all the time,
Gotcha.
like she kind of had been.
Poor thing. We did get one question while we were
We did.
bouncing
What?
around there. Yeah,
Somebody is up interested in us changing our topic from driver's ed
bidets. Yeah, driver's
and
ed of bidets.
bidets
Come on,
and
this is scintillating,
conferences.
scintillating content. Come on. I think what we're asking about is RAG and Olama. So I think specifically they want to ask if they can ask about embeddings
It
under a local
hold on
rig. Hmm,
that question, it feels a little different than, I mean, it's not just asking a question. It sounds like he really wants us to change the topic.
It's quite
That he
possible.
does not want.
May we please discuss something
Maybe
different?
please talk about something relevant. Come on.
Fleetingly. This is what happens when Ryan doesn't come up with great topics. Listen. Before we jump down this path, I will say that there was one piece of Canadian-related Gen AI news that came out of Washington. But basically, my understanding is that there is a what is it? Where was it? The U.S. Embassy for Canada in Washington had to take down an AI-generated post that I don't know, rub people the wrong way. But it's just a bunch of people waving Canadian flags. The flags, unfortunately, are all misshapen and don't look like actual Canadian flags. So I can see why. Like some of them look like they might be flags of
Mm,
Japan because they're missing the red borders and stuff like that. But
right.
yes, not great. So
Wow.
that landed in Canadian politics. I'm not sure if it's politics or not.
Well, I think my one of my favorite AI stories recently is also Canadian related, and that's
Oh,
the Air Canada
I haven't heard this.
support. I
Oh,
think it
this
was Air
sounds juicy.
Canada.
Fantastic. What happened?
Um,
I
they,
fly Air
I,
Canada, so again, no
I,
no words of
I want to
disparagement for
say it was
them.
Air Canada. I hope it was. Um, they had a model on their homepage as kind of a customer support thing, and a person who had to fly somewhere for a funeral um, ask a question,
Yeah.
and the model responds saying, "Yes, after their flight is done, you can get a full refund and or a 50% refund. Nothing to worry." It's like great. So let me focus on going to this funeral,
Yeah,
and
bereavement.
then
I'm reading it now.
he
Oh no, up to
he,
90%
he
off.
goes to get the
Sorry,
refund,
90
and
days.
they
Sorry.
say, "No, that's not allowed. You're not allowed to do. You have to do this ahead of time." It's like your site told me I did could. And so he sued, and Air Canada is like, well, he should have just known that. I mean, that was just an AI model, and it answered. There's no way we can control that.
That's
And
not gonna fly.
the court says like you have it on your site. It's obviously an official
Right.
support mechanism. You have to abide by whatever answers it gave.
And this is where we're at with Critic GPT. I think like this is to me. I thought that announcement. I hate to bring out actual news related to topics we normally talk about, but I feel like the testing of AI model outputs is now more and more important as they actually start being deployed more readily elsewhere. Like
Yeah.
this has to happen basically at this point in time.
Yeah.
We need to like this has to go through dev. It's got to go through staging before it
Yeah.
hits prod. This is like maturity model
Yeah.
that we're in. It's got to get better.
So the question, wait, is there actually a question?
There is no
Maybe we
question. So
discuss
I think the
discuss
question is
embeddings
like,
under.
yeah, can we do this? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. You all the
So
embeddings you want.
so yes, we may discuss. Is there a question?
Yeah, yeah. That's the answer. So listen, we chatted on about a whole bunch of stuff. I mentioned two things that I really liked. Three actually. So Dune Part Two,
Mm.
which again I thought it was good. I think maybe more of the Apple TV experience last minute is what I really appreciate about this, and the fact that it put me to sleep when it needed to, which it totally did. A lot of sound in this movie. Dark Matter, can't recommend it enough. That's got to be the third time we've
Yeah.
recommended this thing. It's quite
Yeah.
good. But specifically, Dark Matter on Apple TV, I think is what Matt had said last time. And I did notice when I was in Apple TV, it was the second from the top. So I was like, yes, this is
Mm.
the right place to get this title for this content, which I
Right.
found. The third would be the Toto electronic portable bidet, specifically because I think it's like a technical marvel, and it's got a long way to go in terms of like what it does. There's no
Yeah.
laser guiding yet, but we're getting close. Was there anything on your end that you checked out during my
Now,
absence?
you initially discussed that in response to, or you were describing like, think of like the ketchup thing.
Yes.
Well, there is another potential use, a ketchup container
Oh.
that knows where the hot dog is and
Oh.
can automatically squirt a line, the
Oh.
perfect zigzag line
Oh.
over your hot dog or burger.
Now listen, do you know the
This is
company?
relevant
Yeah,
to this week because day after tomorrow in the US is 4th of July and a
that's
lot of
right.
people have barbecues.
Yes.
So this is
I'm right. Look, there's also the Costco hot dog, and they've got to reduce somehow the cost of overhead for producing the hot dog to keep it at the same price, right? Because it's an economic indicator. Have you heard of this before?
I
The
have not
Costco hot
heard
dog
this.
will never go up in price, I think is what the person had said, and then they retired and someone else took over and they said yes, absolutely, it's going to remain the same, and maybe it got a little bit smaller. But like it's
Uh-huh.
if this is a scale that we use for the economy, like the price of a quarter pounder, I think is another one at McDonald's, like in terms of a an indicator of what maybe not cheap food, but like food that a lot of people would eat, that kind of thing.
Right.
So in the
Right.
race to keeping the Costco hot dog the same price, we've got to figure out. I think condiment, like
Yeah.
application, right? It's one of these problems.
Yeah.
We got to really eke out the last bit of value. Condiments can't be cheap
Wow.
at scale. I bet you that that brand name
Especially
Heinz
when you
ketchup.
have folks like my grandmother when she was still alive. If when she came over to the States a few times, she would go into a restaurant and she was like amazed at all these ketchup packets, and she'd like grab a handful and put them in her purse.
Yes, these are free
Yes.
ketchup. I don't think you can do that anymore. By the way,
Oh
I've
yeah.
noticed that like at least in Vancouver,
Mm.
there's not a free for all pile of
It's like
packets of
the
condiments.
it's the squeeze the
Yeah, you
bottle that
get
you
like one
push
cup.
down and fill a little cup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can try putting that in your purse, but you don't want to.
Yeah.
We did actually have a question here, I think. Something about
Oh.
Llama 3 8B. I
Okay.
don't know the nomic embedded model personally. I've not done that one. But yeah, it looks like we're trying to get Obsidian working with Llama and the nomic specifically embedding models. I 8B is it quantized or is it 8 billion parameters? Because isn't that small?
Okay, so Llama 3, 8 billion parameter.
That
Yes,
was
8
78.
billion
No?
parameter.
Okay.
7B is Llama 2.
Ah, gotcha. Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah, we got that. My
so
apologies.
Llama 2 was 7 billion and 30 billion, I think. And Llama 3 is at 8 billion and 27, I think.
Gotcha.
Okay, downloaded Llama 3 and Nomic embedding model, I have no idea how to get started with embedding models and vector stores, start leveraging it with, say, my Obsidian notes and more. Yeah, where should I look for? So, I mean, if you want to do it yourself, I mean, that's totally an option. Um, I think you're either building a process outside of Obsidian or building a Obsidian plugin to do the embedding, and then you have to have some sort of vector database. And since Obsidian does most of its the plugins in JavaScript, you're looking at Yeah, there's a vector database that you can run in code without needing to install anything. I can't remember what it's called, but you would store all the data there. There is a Misty.app will has a it's a standalone application, but will automatically index your Obsidian vault. And then there's also a number of plugins that work with Obsidian that are building their vector database locally as
Ah.
well as an option. Um,
I pasted a quick tutorial, but it's not as cool as what you're talking about because it's PG vector, which means like a full database,
yeah.
unfortunately.
So PG Vector is definitely one of the popular vector databases. It's a larger infrastructure than,
Yeah.
like Chroma DB is really easy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Um,
Yep.
and if you're using Python, you don't need to install it. If you're using JavaScript, it needs to be either a Docker container or it's a single executable. It's just SQLite with some add-ons on top of it.
Didn't know that.
I'd like to use it myself because I would like to leverage this for more than just my Markdown files, but in general with my documents and such.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Nope.
So if you're looking um, beyond your Obsidian database, but also PDFs and other documents that are out on your file system, and you want to have one place to ask, then using an Obsidian plugin probably doesn't make sense. If you want to build it, you can build it yourself because all those Markdown files are just in the file system, so you can get to that. Or, as I mentioned, Misty is it works with Obsidian Vaults today. Although for now, I wouldn't recommend that for Obsidian just yet because they don't have a really good story about when your vault changes because it's going to change as you work with it. Um, that story is not great right now. It will be when they have a new version. They said, but I haven't seen. I mean, I was expecting a new version a week ago, and I don't know what the time frame is for that next version that's going to fix that problem.
What was the problem? Because
Um,
they just had a release that's talking about Obsidian Vaults.
the one from June 3rd
This is from.
supported.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's literally the release notes I'm
Yeah,
reading. Yeah.
that supported Obsidian Vaults, but it didn't couldn't recognize that there's any changes, any new documents
Ah,
or updated documents,
gotcha.
and
Yeah, sorry.
so
And I was
it would
looking at
have
the
to
older release
re-index the
notes.
whole thing.
Gotcha. Sorry. All the release notes are on the same page, so I thought they were part of the
Yeah.
same one, but they're actually. So the one back in May added linking for vaults, and then the one from
Hmm.
June didn't necessarily have an update for it. Okay,
Right.
fair enough. It
Um,
honestly, it feels like this is we're almost at like the Google search desktop kind of era of
yeah.
functionality. Nvidia's tried their own as
Yeah.
well. It's not that great, but this is. I think people are now realizing that actually being able to like look through your documents, find things, come up with things, and suggest things is a very
Hmm.
powerful functionality. And like
Yeah.
again, Microsoft tried something that I thought was a good idea, but like poor
Right.
implementation. But we're
Yeah.
getting to a spot where we can try to figure out what we're doing with a device that is way more interesting to me than like a chatbot. I think this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, notes, text files, PDFs, and such. What the boundaries are. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're both on board. Totally agree.
Regarding PDF,
Hmm.
I've got a video from like 2 months ago, and talking about embedding. And I said I'm just going to avoid PDF because there's no good way of getting text out of PDF. Generally,
Right.
there's definitely some packages like on Python. There's PyPDF
PyPDF. Yep.
and PyMu PDF,
Oh yes.
but
No.
they're and there's basically the same thing on the JavaScript side and other languages as well, but they're all terrible.
I've
They're
used
all
um I've used Pandoc. Have you heard of that before? It's like a
sure. There's yeah. I mean,
just
there's a
converting it
lot of.
basically, just saying like
I mean
screw
that
PDF.
requires a whole executable as well, an
Yeah.
installation.
Yeah.
The problem is that if you're if you know your PDFs all have the same general format, you can kind of plan ahead
Fair enough.
and deal with it. But I can grab 5 random PDFs off of archive.org, archive.org, where a lot of papers
Not
are.
not X.
And
Ooh.
did I say X? Oh, and
No,
I meant arc.
I think it does have an X, right?
There's an
Am I
X
on
in
the wrong
there.
side?
ARX.
Yeah, yeah. You said CH, but yes, I
IV.
think it is X.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
it's all good. It's all
I
good.
meant to say. That's why I was going to
It's like,
spell it
hold
out
up.
because I meant to say X.
It's all good. Listen, I'm here for
Um.
you. But like when I download
So
those, often even just the first word will have spaces between the letters, and it's
sure.
already game over. What do I do?
Yeah.
I've got to now
And
find
then
out where spaces
sometimes
are and aren't. It's awful.
the first paragraph is two columns, and then
Yes,
the rest of it is single
yes, it's
column,
awful.
or it's all over the place,
That's
and
super
it
common
has
actually to have the first
yeah.
page in two columns. Yeah.
So there's a new package by the same people as PyMu PDF
Hmm.
called PyMu PDF for LLM
I found it.
with a number four in
Yep.
there.
Yep.
For LLM, which is adding support for automatically recognizing whether it's a single column or
Yeah.
multi-column, then single column, then all doing all that. I don't know why they're making it as this other package of and not just
Yeah.
renaming
I see what you're
PyMu
saying.
PDF
Right.
because it finally makes PyMu PDF not suck.
Right.
Um, and it's
Yeah, I think I'm here with you. Now they say they don't have a lot of programming experience, and maybe like you're thinking about a use case that's going to catch up here. I think this library,
oh,
though, at least in terms of the features, definitely covers some of the use cases you were talking about. I just gave a quick glance at it.
I mean it's purely about um, getting the text out of the PDF. I
Right.
think.
Yep. No, that's what it looks like.
Um,
Into a way that could also be used by, I think they
yeah,
mentioned Lemma Index if you wanted to.
yeah. In fact, they support the Llama Index document type. If you're, I mean, I don't know if of the people who are using something like a Llama Index, they're probably using LangChain, not Llama Index.
Fair enough.
Um,
Yeah, I
so
don't know
it's
who's going to win that
interesting.
war. I do watch it though.
Yeah,
I'm very interested to see what happens in this space.
yeah. Um, from if you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that I'm not a huge fan of LangChain or Llama Index, but yeah,
I don't think you're alone though. I think this
yeah,
is a common refrain. The
yeah.
next one was someone asking for best videos in terms of YouTube content for local Alama
All
rigs.
of them. Watch
What
them
I
all.
feel like you got to watch Matt's. Start there. Techno Evangelist, I believe, on YouTube. Definitely
Yep,
start there. But yeah, the all of them is one approach. The other is like watch the newest because it seems to change a lot.
it does. Yeah,
Uh, yeah, like listen, I tried some methods that are completely useless at this point. I want to say so. I've
yeah.
got to also get up to speed on this again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some of my earlier videos, especially if I was doing anything JavaScript related, they were using because there was no official module or framework for it. I created one myself, which I was pretty proud of. And then Bruce in the Olama team created a new one that was kind of the more official one. Actually, we kind of acquired the one that somebody else created called Olama. We acquired that and absorbed it, and then Bruce kind of rewrote it, and that's great. And so as soon as that came, I was like, I'm not gonna deal with
Yeah,
my thing anymore because it's
this
horrible.
is
And
probably not horrible. Like for the time, good. But I don't know if you're like me, but whenever I see my code in prod, it's like, oh, please replace this. Like any like because I
but
just know my old self would have taken so many shortcuts and stuff like that. It's just
yeah, that said, I say it's terrible, and
Mhm.
yet I feel like about 6 months ago, I got an email from somebody in like compliance or whatever at Uber
Okay.
asking, there's no open source
Oh,
license
you forget the
on this.
license.
Can you put a license on here?
Right.
Because we're using it like you're using my stuff at Uber.
That's
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll give you a license. That's $100.
Sure. It's like whatever. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
What did you end up licensing it? Because like I would normally go to
Oh,
Apache or MIT or something like that.
I think it was MIT. Yeah.
Yeah, for me it just seems easier
Yeah.
most of the time. Yeah. Again, please look into licenses. Like if you get
Yeah.
upstream dependencies, definitely look into those as well. But yeah,
Yep.
that's really cool. Well, congrats. Is there
I
anything
mean
else that
that's
you?
why
Yep.
Jeremy started at Datadog was to focus on open source licensing at Datadog.
Now, listen, there are some announcements there. We have an open source page. We've got a team. We're constantly
Oh
upgrading.
yeah,
We got
what?
stuff. Yeah, yeah, I know. Finally, it's amazing.
Yeah.
This is recent news, but yes, yes.
Okay.
But
And now it's a
listen,
dash.
open source is very important at Datadog. But yes,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do now have a landing page with all the projects on it and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I think that's about a year old, and then the team is a little
Okay.
bit
Yeah.
more recent. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's fantastic. We've got people committing to open telemetry. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
how many? I wonder how many major open source projects are run by somebody who is a Datadog employee.
right. It, it's
Like,
it's
what's it?
phenomenal.
Yarn? Yarn is it?
Yarn the build pack or yarn the way of spreading jobs out. There's a couple yarns, right?
Uh, the alternative to npm.
Yeah, the build one. Yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah.
there, but like Basil. There used to be a whole bunch of stuff. Spinnaker is another
Yeah.
one. Like there's a whole bunch of tools
I mean,
internally
the
that like make
yarn
up the back end, right?
guy was there.
I see what you're saying. Yes, and the awesome window manager is another one, and I think
Oh, okay.
historically VLC. I think one of
Oh
the
yeah,
founders was
PLC.
involved,
Well,
right? In
sort
university,
of. I mean,
in
so
university, yeah.
the so Olivier, one of the two
Mhm.
founders of Datadog, when he was in school, him and some of his school colleagues created this new package called VLC for working with videos.
Right.
Um, and it was mostly, I think, to get metadata out.
Oh, I didn't know
Um,
that. Okay.
and then he graduated, and the next class kind of continued it
Right. It became like a
and
school project. Yeah.
and then changed it from its original intent to be a video player.
Right.
And so he had nothing to do with the video player stuff, which is all we know of
Listen, I'm not
about
going to take them
VLC
down
now.
these pegs publicly. I think it's pretty cool. But we do
I
have
mean, so
definitely
he
a
was
lot of
like,
employees who work on open source projects.
he was always like quick to say, it's like, yeah, what I worked on
Oh,
has
right.
nothing to
Right.
do with,
You definitely said that before.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
But yeah, I think that concentration, at least on open source, or
yeah,
publicizing some of the contributions is
yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, and I think the rest of these comments are just saying that the person is trying to learn how to do them
Yeah, it's
myself
awesome.
and put together. That is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like going back to that, I mean, what needs to be there is some sort of system like that Google desktop application, or
Right. Or the
there was
NVIDIA, I forget what they called it, but
not Neva, but there was some other, maybe it was Neva that was
hmm
also trying to do that as well. Just like index all your emails, index all your documents, and then be able to add, when you do a search, it's searching all the things.
right.
Um, there's been a few attempts at it, and they've never really latched on too much.
The back of
But
my
yeah,
brain is like, where is the money? How am I making money
yeah,
off of you searching your local data without
yeah,
using you as a product? That this
right,
is the difficult
right,
part. Without shipping, images of your desktop up to the cloud that I'm then
yeah,
pouring over. Like, what does that monetize? Like, what's in it for me, basically? What is the
right,
incentive here for me to help you?
right,
And I don't know if there is one, basically.
yeah. I mean, it really has to be a project that is sponsored by a company because the person works at that company.
Right, right. And
Um,
I keep forgetting the name of the NVIDIA one, but what was it? Like NVIDIA GPU desktop search or something like that?
I don't know.
I will find it. NVIDIA RTX LLM. Oh man, I've totally forgotten this. Chat RTX, I believe, is what they call it. My apologies, that took a minute. But yeah, that is apparently the local one that you can point to a folder, show it some documents, and at least maybe you could use it for comparison purposes to what this looks
Hmm.
like. I thought it was quite kludgy. The it felt
Yeah.
like a lamp stack. Those old like WAMP apps that people
Hmm.
would
Hmm.
distribute for Windows
Hmm.
that included like Apache, MySQL, PHP, and,
Or,
and
I
Postgres.
mean,
It's
or
just
the
awful.
the kind of more modern equivalent, or maybe not more modern, Conda, Anaconda, with all these things that try to package all the Python
Yeah,
stuff all together and make a mess of things.
that they absolutely do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I've talked to the condo people like at conferences, trying to figure out like what the goal is or why
Yeah.
they're doing. And a lot of it is more about thinking about like provenance or software supply chain. Like where did all the packages that you're using
Yeah.
look like? Are they signed? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, vendoring all of Python, which is like there's some companies that we know of that do this. It's like it's a messy way to just push software out there. Like if only there was a way to contain all of this into some small package, you know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
feels like Docker to me or some sort of container like would be way better suited for this, but we're
Yeah.
not. It seems like we're still trying to solve this problem again for some reason where I don't know. Like Kitematic was my favorite, but imagine if this were just a Kitematic thing that you could just click on a menu and it would start up this
Hmm.
RTX PDF gobbling application that would spit
Yep.
out answers for you. That to me
Yeah.
is the system, and I understand that Olema may be getting there at some point in time, but that to me is the future. Like, how do I get this?
Yeah.
I want to run this for PDF for the next 4 hours and
Yeah.
then turn it off and try something else, kind of thing.
Right.
That's where we could be going. We're not there
Yeah.
yet.
So one thing that I don't know if you noticed that you probably haven't been watching the actual stream while we're doing this, but performance has been pretty good the entire time. There hasn't been any lags in
I
performance.
was like, you're talking about my performance, my
My performance,
oration.
my
Your
performance,
internet performance
my
did dip once this whole time. I
did
have been
it?
watching like a hawk, in fact, and it only dropped once. It's been much better. And I was going to mention it in the green room after, but what have you done, Matt? Have you bought an ISP? What happened here?
No.
You're
So
now running the Bainbridge Island ISP?
no. So I was wondering, what is it causing this problem?
Mm-hmm.
And like I tried eliminating my whole network and just hooking my laptop up to
Right to the
the
switch or the router?
whatever the switch
Mm-hmm.
that comes in. I couldn't get that to work for some reason, so I went to the next hop,
Yep.
and like removed everything else and just had my laptop, and I was like, and it performed really well and on a few test streams. I thought, huh, okay, well, let me go back to where I'm usually sitting and just use my laptop instead, even with through my network. In case it's, I mean, I was assuming that it was at first. I was assuming it's just my internal network. I've done
Right.
something stupid.
Yeah.
So I plug in cables just directly to my laptop on my desk, and performs great.
Huh.
So it is purely my Mac Mini that is doing that initial encode and pushing up to Riverside. That was where the problem is.
Interesting. That was the
Uh,
bottleneck.
it- it's, I mean, it's a M1 Mac, but it is only 8 gigs of memory and
Right.
not a lot of disk space. I'm not sure if it needs caching,
Oh, maybe.
or needs the whatever the disk. Uh, so that's the problem. It's
Gotcha.
my Mac.
And,
That
and, and I'm on M1 Max, I think, but I think
Yeah,
I've got way more memory.
yeah. So I mean, my
64
laptop
gigabytes
is
of
a
memory.
M1 Max with 64 gigs.
Same here. Yeah, identical.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which is a lot for the viewers.
yeah.
Like in order to stream something like this is like way overkill. But yeah, maybe that
So
was just a difference. It was
yeah,
actually processing power.
so I am thinking about either going with a M2 Mac Mini with I think 32 gigs is the most I can get on that, or and that's going to be like $600.
I will happily recycle your old Mac Mini if you want. I can drive there, pick it up for free. I'll come to you. We come to you.
but and I'm also wondering, should I spend not a I don't have to spend a crazy amount, but should I get like a somewhat quiet Linux box
Mm,
or Windows box, because probably more towards the Windows side, just so I can have a machine that is powerful running Windows that I can also do some stuff on. So,
oh,
running double duty of, being able to do some of the Llama stuff on Windows.
the amount of bike shedding you have ahead of you. now,
um,
now, like just to sort of shortcut this thought process before you go down this path, is there any inkling in your mind that you might like buy a pre-built from a company that may also make a mechanical keyboard, or are you like, see, yeah, this is
oh, you mean
right.
like System
That's
76?
exactly what I was thinking. Because like I feel like this is a good
Ah,
Linux desktop. I'm not sure if it's a good Windows desktop, but I do feel
yeah.
like this is a pretty good pre-built. And I've always wanted their keyboard, and I feel like they're cheaper when you buy a computer. But I could be wrong. Their keyboard design decisions are
I didn't. I
Opinionated.
didn't know they did keyboards.
They did, and you will not like it. But I feel like you should buy it so I can hear how you don't like it. Because I also want to buy one so I can complain about how I don't like it.
Right.
It's just that there's so many
Um,
decisions that you can make in a keyboard, and the staggered right hand side is an odd decision to me. It's like
See,
a
when you started saying that, I was thinking you were going to say like framework, the
yeah.
framework
Well, part of
laptops.
my brain is also thinking like a framework, or is it like the Dell Linux approved kind of laptop, which will also run
Mm-hmm.
Windows as well. But like, what does that look like? Or a Lenovo T series, I think is maybe where my
Mm-hmm.
brain goes, like a T500,
Mm-hmm.
T400, AMD kind of that kind of thing. But I am
Yeah.
actually interested because I build my Windows desktops, and I will tell you,
Yeah.
it's a non-trivial amount of time to build one, even though I really like it.
Yeah.
Like if I had to get something tomorrow to help me stream, it would not be. I would not put myself in like the blocker stage of this ticket
Right.
process. It would be terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I've considered getting something from there's a website or a business called silentpc.com,
I
and
am aware
they
of them.
do
Yeah.
just do quiet machines. They add a 10-15% surcharge over to because they have to build it and guarantee it.
Hmm.
And they're actually pretty close to where I live. No, I mean probably like an hour or two away, so I could pick it up. Maybe
Yeah, I
two
was
hours
just
away.
pulling that up. So I thought they were local. No, they're in Battleground, Washington. Oh, different Vancouver. Oh, this is how they get you, folks. There's another Vancouver and Washington. I
Yeah.
mean, they're pretty close to you, but yes, I legitimately, sorry, thought that this was Vancouver, British Columbia, because of course there's another Vancouver. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're in Battleground. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Very very
So
interesting.
I almost got to the point of buying like a one of their rack systems um
Right.
uh,
The Raptor Lake
when
ones.
we were
Yeah.
doing when before Olama was Olama and we were doing Kubernetes tools. I was going to get one of those for that, and then I didn't. And but now
Ha,
I'm
ha,
kind of going towards that.
oh,
Or do I want to
now
build
I'm bike shedding
myself?
with you, but have you gone down the path of like the Dan cases? I think they're called Dan PC cases, but they're completely
No.
fanless. They're like one big machine block of aluminum. They're very expensive. I say
Oh
this
yeah.
because a friend of mine loves building computers using these cases, but they are
Oh, really?
they're difficult and maybe cutty. Like you might cut yourself a couple times
Oh
trying to
yeah.
like get in there and like move some sort of cable around a piece of aluminum that's not folded, and
Yeah.
it just looks very difficult. So I would pay someone to build it. Is what I'm getting at. The Silent
Yeah.
PC sounds like my jam.
I mean I'm very tempted by like the fractal design boxes or
Yes,
you know
that is what I do. I build stuff in
but
fractal design cases. Yes. Yep, I'm
so
not
I don't know.
original.
I'm
Listen, I am here for this, as I'm sure the people in the comments would normally be. It doesn't look like we have the 3 or 4 or 5 NVIDIA card toting people in the comments this week, but I'm sure next week they will be back with a vengeance, telling you how to
hmm
build your PC and why you shouldn't go pre-built.
yeah. Um yeah, I'm torn. Um oh, somebody are we talking about my why Python sucks? My favorite topic.
I was told
My favorite
unequivocally,
topic too.
like Python is slow once, and this it started this massive office debate. And listen, Python can be slow, but the
Yeah.
things that they were talking about was very interesting. Like it's difficult to compare Python in Java in an enterprise that primarily runs Java as like their application platform, or
Mm.
if you're in a place that's primarily .NET and you're arguing about
Mm-hmm.
Python, it is a very similar discussion. And like, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe Python's slow for what you're doing, but in terms of
Yeah.
writing the code, it might be faster.
Sure. I mean, that was always the benefit of Ruby and Ruby on Rails
Yes,
was
getting
it
started
was
quicker.
faster to build something,
Yeah.
even if your all of your users had to suffer through using it.
Yes. Yeah. Who cares about the users?
Who
Honestly,
cares about users?
just I think your cell phone's gonna get faster next year. It'll be fine.
Yep.
And then one more about
So,
mechanical keyboards, which is I don't know if this
yep.
is bait for you, but this is a long topic.
So I do not do custom mechanical keyboards. I do like
I didn't know that
mechanical though.
actually. There, I did
I've
not.
never I've
What
never custom built one.
you and I are completely different. I've not bought a pro build. Wow, I've only done
Hmm.
custom. Today we learned. Okay,
I I have I have the Ergodox
great.
EZ from the ZSA.
Hmm.
That was their first kick. I backed it when it was a Kickstarter. Um, it was either Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I can't remember, but that was that was my first one. And then I got the Planky Z, which is also from ZSA, and that was my favorite of all time. Now my keyboard is a Voyager, also from ZSA. Um, and then they also have a little macro pad from a company called Work Louder, which is really cool.
Now, Matt,
Um,
do you have a row one Datadog double shot molded GMK in marketing approved colorways yet?
I do not.
Guess what I
What?
got coming in the mail? We did it.
Wait, what?
We had to wait. I think it was 3 years. We got it. We like pushed it through GMK. We got a small group buy going. Uh, Again,
Oh,
that's a
really?
spoiler alert to the community. But yeah,
Uh
I ordered a few. I should have some
huh.
extras. There may be another order. I can't wait. But it is on order.
Oh,
We put in our order. They've already made that. Like I've got a picture of the sample. Like double shot molded Datadog keycap R1. So like escape key or F1 or what have you.
oh, it's just one keycap.
One keycap. Yes. I
Oh,
mean, listen, you could fill a whole macro pad with these if you want to. One keycap.
uh huh.
One keycap.
Okay,
Yes, I'm
but
very
purple.
excited. Of course, Datadog Purple. As close as
Datadog purple.
GMK could get to it, which is pretty close.
Okay. I mean, close enough that Ollie would approve.
We will see when they arrive. We we shall see. It's pretty close, like to my eye, and I'm pretty particular about colors. It is awfully close, if not
Yeah.
exactly the same.
So I have a jacket, a Datadog jacket, and it's one of the Eddie Bauer
Right.
Datadog jacket, which they only made
Yes,
40 of,
I know.
because Ollie didn't like the color purple that was on there.
Yeah, and honestly, if this were my company, I would also be quite
Sure,
particular
sure,
about. Yep, this has got to be
yep.
like the Ryan Red, or I don't know what it is. I'm making
And
stuff up.
yeah, the two founders also said no, we are never doing socks until Elon just made some socks and gave a six packs to each one of them. It's like we love socks.
I may have worn some socks to the speaker dinner this year. People ask me where they got them, and I'm pretty sure what happened was a client got the socks and didn't want them and gave them to me. Is
Mm,
how I got them. But
yeah,
yes, the swag story is
I'm
it's
sure
the
I
same
have a
like this in
dozen of
every.
those socks.
Really, they're
Oh
surprisingly
yeah,
comfy, actually. I'm
yeah.
here. Also, just a quick update on the topic for compression socks. I did, in fact, wear them
Oh yeah.
on my way back. I would suggest not wearing compression socks with just shorts, which is what I tried to do. Because especially, I had black shorts, white shoes, and black socks, which I realize our audience might not understand that like you don't wear black socks with white shoes. It's just not a thing you do.
Oh my
But then you
god.
got to pull them up. So I did. I pulled them up in the plane, and of course, I'm the guy in the front row, 1A on JetBlue here, wearing a black T-shirt, black shorts, black socks, white shoes, looking ridiculous. Freezing. It was 11 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is. It's got to be 50 in Fahrenheit. It was freezing. Had to get up mid-flight. Struggle with the overhead bin because it wouldn't open in these socks the whole time, and I'm just sitting there trying to open the overhead bin. Finally got out,
Oh
and
god.
what did I grab first? But like a full suit. So then I went to the washroom and got into a suit coat, suit pants, and they all know that I'm like definitely wearing the shorts and socks under the same thing, and then like sheepishly
Oh my
got back in
god.
my seat and pretended to watch Dark Matter for the rest of the trip. I mean, I
Oh my
did, but
god.
this is so awkward,
Oh,
so
that
awkward.
is
My feet felt fantastic, by the way, but also yes,
yeah.
there's a little bit of I don't know what it is. Is it ego or like there's something there? But yes, definitely there's hubris involved. It definitely got some comeuppance.
I never understand people who wear shorts on planes.
It was 27 degrees and it felt like 35. I don't know. Is that
Hmm.
100? It felt like 100 degrees in New York because it was so
Yeah.
humid. And I was
Oh,
like, it's
sure,
going to be
absolutely.
hot on that plane for sure. I'm going to die otherwise. I'm wearing
Yeah.
shorts and my bare legs are going to touch the seat, which I think the ick
Hmm.
that most people don't like, which I don't really like. And then realized, yes, it is way too cold in this plane for
Way
these
too cold.
this clothing decision that I have
Yeah.
made. This is awful.
Yeah.
I asked for a blanket. They said, of course you can have one for $14. It's like I'm not purchasing a blanket. I don't need this forever. Your pilots turn down the heat for some reason. It's cold.
Yeah. So I will. There's I have a recommendation
Oh,
for a
there we go.
product that you should get that
Okay.
will solve this problem
Yes.
in case
Is
you're
it pants?
stupid enough to wear shorts again on a plane. But even if you are wearing pants, sometimes it's really cold on these planes.
Right.
And so there's a blanket from a company called Gravel.
Okay.
Gravel travel,
It sounds very
like
comfy.
gravel, like the
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 road.
the rocks that are in your driveway.
Yes.
Gravel. And what's special about it's really like
It's
a
tiny.
thin material,
Yeah.
and it's really will cover you, it'll cover me. But what's nice is that it has like buttons on it or like little snaps, and so you can snap it around your neck. And then it's always on you. It's never gonna fall
I'm
down.
totally going to the airplane washroom in this in this blanket.
Well, and then at the bottom, it's got a little pocket for your feet to go
Oh,
into.
okay.
So
Yeah.
the blanket stays on you all the time.
Not
Not when you go into the bathroom. Don't do that
please,
because then you're
not one, but two people went into that washroom without socks. And listen, I
oh,
don't know what was
that's
on the
just
floor, but there was definitely
disgusting.
liquid on the floor. And let's assume
Yeah,
it was from the sink.
there's there's always liquid,
Like, ah, just no.
and it has a smell.
It certainly
Yeah,
had a
no,
smell. The
that's
washer, like, come on,
oh,
please
that's
don't do
bad.
this.
No, don't do that. That's just disgusting.
Okay, I think we grossed everybody out.
Yeah.
Bidets and bathrooms on airlines. Yes.
So I have one other recommendation.
What do you got?
I saw a movie
Oh, well, that is fantastic.
about a week ago.
Do you
I
remember the name
saw
of the
a
movie?
movie. I do, and I went to the theater, and
Okay.
so on Bainbridge Island, there's the Bainbridge Island cinemas, and what's great about that is that they give you the popcorn, and then you have to put you get to put the butter on yourself,
Ooh, that's kind of
and
cool.
it's like it is the machine that like pours out pure
Oh,
liquid
love
butter,
it! Like
and
would come
so
right
you
out
have
of
to
your
like
your engine.
the
It's just that
yeah
consistency.
the the popcorn container doesn't fit under that thing, so they provide little cups like for the
Yep,
ketchup
the
cups,
ketchup. Yep.
and so you pour it into there and pour it onto there, and you always, I mean, this is my mistake. I always think, oh, I want a little bit more butter because
Right.
it's
Yeah.
good. So I get that second cup and I pour it on there, and then by about halfway through,
Oh,
you're feeling so sick from
liquefied.
this
Yeah.
popcorn that is just absolutely disgusting. And then it gets worse at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you feel like you're gonna die.
Ugh.
I do this every single time. It's terrible, but that's not the recommendation. The recommendation is we went to see the movie The Fall Guy.
Oh, okay. I've heard
It
this is
was
terrible.
fantastic.
Heard it's so bad.
It is so much fun. It
I
was
heard
a
the
great
marketing
fun
was
movie.
great, the concept was great, the execution was just awful. Was it not a completely bland
No,
movie? That's what I heard.
no,
Right?
it
Okay,
was funny. It was great. It
awesome,
was fun. It
awesome.
was. I
It
mean,
does
it's
look
not
like
a
a fun movie.
serious movie,
No, no, not at all.
but it was a fun movie.
Who am I thinking of? It was it Brad Pitt is in this? No, Ryan Gosling. My apologies. Was
Yeah,
Gosling actually good?
yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, it was a fun movie.
And then Emily Blunt, I think, is
Yep,
also in it.
yep,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Right on. Yeah. It. I mean, it looked
My
pretty good.
my favorite. Thinking of Emily Blunt. I remember seeing a video, like a short video, of her husband, John Krasinski.
Krasinski. Yep. From The Office.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's apparently going to England to see her because she was in Mary Poppins, I think,
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
or some movie like that.
Right on.
And the customs guy says, "What um, what are you here to, what do you do?" And I says, "I'm an actor." He's like, "Anything I would have heard of?" And he said, "Oh, I was in The Office, not your version, but our version." And oh, well, yeah, okay. So he already like loses points with this guy because he's in the American Office, not the
Oh, is
original
this one where they
Office.
know Emily Blunt and can't believe that he'd be with
And
her?
then it says, who's your wife?" It's like,
Yeah.
"Emily." Yeah, it's like, you
Yeah,
you
exactly.
are you uh, go.
It's like you've stolen the national treasure kind of thing. Get out of
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm sure that would happen.
yeah.
All right, should we call it? Listen, we went over. Sorry, we had a bit of a false start there.
Have
Thank you
we
very much
ever
for.
not gone over?
Yeah, we definitely ended
Oh yeah,
and started
you've
on
had a
time.
meeting you need to
Yeah,
go to.
yeah, it's rare, but it certainly happened.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you to everyone in the comments. Again, apologies for the false
yeah,
start, but yeah, this helps us get along and talk
yeah.
about stuff.
I set up the stream and Riverside's connected to the stream, but with the wrong key,
Oh, gotcha.
and so it wouldn't connect. And then we finally had to restart. And then by the time we figured it out, it was 6 minutes in.
There
And
we go. I think it worked okay. Bandwidth
uh,
has been great.
yeah, bandwidth has been amazing. Oh my God! So I just need to figure out a way to convince my wife that I need another machine after buying a $2,000 iPad.
Let her know that someone will come take the other Mac Mini away, so it won't take any more space in the house. All right, sir. Should we
Yep.
call it?
Yeah, I think we should call it. I'll find the end stream button. Ready? One, two, three, go. Go.
No, one more time.